Welcome to the Stuff You Should Think About podcast, where I answer everyday questions about phenomena and objects. Hey, what's up? I'm G. Thanksgiving is a major holiday in the United States that combines history, religion, and traditions, family gatherings, and national identity. Today is celebrated on the fourth Thursday of November and is widely known for large family meals, turkey, parades, football, and expressions of gratitude. However, the story of Thanksgiving is much deeper and more complex than the modern celebration suggests. The idea of thanks for a harvest did not begin with the famous 1621 feast in Plymouth. Long before Europeans arrived in North America, Native American communities held seasonal ceremonies and harvest celebrations to give thanks for food, nature, and community. These traditions were part of a long-established cultural and spiritual life. European settlers also had traditions of Thanksgiving. In Europe, people often held religious services or feasts to thank God for survival, military victories, or a successful harvest. Because of this, Thanksgiving in America developed a mix of native harvest traditions and European religious customs. The event most often linked to the first Thanksgiving took place in 1621 in Plymouth. In present-day Massachusetts, the English colonists, known as the Pilgrims, had survived a very difficult first year. After a successful harvest, they held a 3-day feast. The Wampanoag people, especially under the leadership of Massasoit, were an important part of this event. They had helped colonists survive by sharing agricultural knowledge, local food practices, and support. The 1621 gathering included both the colonists and the Wampanoag participants. Although this meal is often remembered as the beginning of Thanksgiving, historians point out that it was not originally called Thanksgiving in the way the modern holiday is understood. It was more accurately a harvest celebration. Also, many details commonly taught about the meals are simplified or inaccurate. For example, it's likely lasted about 3 days. The menu probably included wildfowl, venison, corn, squash, and local foods. There's no evidence that turkey was the main dish. The event reflected cooperation at one moment in history, but it did not erase the latter conflict, displacement, and suffering experienced by Native peoples. The 1621 Plymouth Feast is the most famous story, but it may not have been the earliest Thanksgiving-like event in what is now the United States. Historians have identified earlier ceremonies by European explorers, including 1541, a Thanksgiving observance by Spanish explorers in present-day Texas, 1578, a ceremony by English explorer Martin Frobisher in North America, 1598, a Thanksgiving event by Spanish colonists in present-day New Mexico. These examples show that the idea of Thanksgiving observance existed in different places and forms before Plymouth. In the years after the colonial period, Thanksgiving days were not celebrated regularly across the whole country. Instead, colonies and latter states sometimes declared their own days of thanks, often connected to special events such as harvests, military victories, or national success. In 1789, President George Washington issued a proclamation for a National Day of Thanksgiving. This was one of the earliest official efforts to create a national observance after the founding of the United States. One important figure in Thanksgiving history was Sarah Josepha Hale, a writer and editor. For many years, she campaigned for Thanksgiving to become a national annual holiday. She believed it could help unite the country. Thanksgiving became firmly established as a national holiday during the Civil War. In 1863, President Abraham Lincoln proclaimed a National Thanksgiving Day to be observed on the last Thursday of November. At a time of deep national division, the holiday was presented as a day of gratitude, reflection, and unity. The exact date of Thanksgiving changed over time. For many years, it was celebrated on the last Thursday in November following Lincoln's practice. In 1939, President Franklin D. Roosevelt moved Thanksgiving earlier by 1 week in an effort to lengthen the Christmas shopping season during the Great Depression. This decision caused confusion and debate. Some people called the changed holiday Franksgiving because different states followed different dates for a time. Congress stepped in. In 1941, Congress officially set Thanksgiving as the fourth Thursday of November, which is still the rule today. Modern Thanksgiving is centered mostly on family, gratitude, and shared meals. Although the historical roots are important, the holiday is now often experienced as a social and cultural tradition. Many people travel long distances to spend Thanksgiving with relatives. It is one of the busiest travel periods of the year in the United States. Families often gather at home for a large meal and time together. The most famous part of the celebration is the traditional meal. Common foods include roast turkey, stuffing or dressing, mashed potatoes, gravy, cranberry sauce, sweet potatoes, corn, green bean casserole, pumpkin pie, pecan pie. Turkey became strongly associated with Thanksgiving over time, even though it may not have been the main food at the 1621 feast. Before eating, many families pause to express gratitude. Some say prayers, while others simply go around the table and share what they are thankful for. This practice reflects the older religious and harvest-based meaning of Thanksgiving. One of the best-known public traditions is the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade in New York City, which began in 1924. It features giant balloons, marching bands, floats, performers, and holiday entertainment. It has become a major national event watched on television. American football is another major Thanksgiving tradition. Professional and college football games are commonly played and watched on the holiday, making sports part of the day's entertainment. A modern White House tradition is the presidential turkey pardon, in which the president symbolically spares a turkey from being eaten. This custom became especially well known in the late 20th century and is now a widely recognized part of the holiday season. For many Americans, Thanksgiving is a holiday about gratitude, family and togetherness, sharing food, reflecting on blessings, helping others through charity and community meals. It's also a time when food banks, churches, and community organizations often provide meals for people in need. In recent decades, Thanksgiving has also been remixed from the perspective of Native American history. The traditional school version of Thanksgiving often presents a simple story of a friendship between Pilgrims and Native Americans. In reality, the broader history that followed included colonization, land loss, violence, broken agreements, and cultural destruction for many indigenous peoples. Because of this, some Native Americans and others view Thanksgiving differently. Since 1970, some have observed a National Day of Mourning in Plymouth, Massachusetts on Thanksgiving Day. This event honors Native ancestors and recognizes the painful history connected to colonization. This does not mean that all people celebrate Thanksgiving in the same way or with the same meaning. For some people, it's a joyful family holiday. For others, it's also a day to remember historical injustice. A complete understanding of Thanksgiving should include both the celebration and the historical complexity. Thanksgiving works as both a historic tradition and a modern cultural celebration. Its roots go back to native harvest ceremonies, European religious customs, and the famous 1621 Plymouth Feast involving the Pilgrims and the Wampanoag. Over time, it became a national holiday through presidential proclamations and public support, especially under Abraham Lincoln. Today, Thanksgiving is celebrated with meals, family gatherings, parades, football, and expressions of gratitude. At the same time, modern discussions of Thanksgiving increasingly include Native American perspectives and a more honest understanding of history. In this way, Thanksgiving is not just a holiday about food, it's also a reflection of American history, memory, identity, and the many ways people choose to give thanks.